This is Q13 News This Morning with Kaci and Travis.
Good morning and welcome to Q13 News This Morning with Kaci and me.
Travis.
That's right.
We're excited to have you here. Here's what we're working on for this half hour. We keep hearing about robots taking over the world, taking over all of our jobs. Turns out that's not what we should be worried about at all.
Oh, great. Something else to be
We'll explain what you should be.
Great. Then, do you ever feel like, look, you just need a day off to figure out all your finances? Well, that is a real issue and companies are addressing it. Well, some of them are even giving a day off and some a rainy day fund.
Could use some of those. We can all learn from that. And a new study says kids aren't learning about money the way they should be early on in life. A local expert stops by with how you can teach your kids some simple but important money management skills.
And kids of any age. I have lots of questions about
yes.
that. And we are over on Facebook talking right now about fighting with your significant other. Tyler, what are we asking?
Yeah, we want to know first, do you fight with your significant other? Chances are you probably do. But more importantly, what do you argue about? Facebook.com/Q13Fox to join the conversation.
Let it all out. But first, after a long day, more and more of us are starting to turn to those home meal kit delivery services. In fact, 1 in 4 of us in just the last year.
So while many of us actually love the convenience, there are some other industries out there that say it's actually negatively impacting their bottom line. So take a look at this. We found it in USA Today. The headline says it all. Growing home meal kit phenomenon is stirring up food industry, stressing out supermarkets.
Now, it's talking about services like Blue Apron, Sunbasket, HelloFresh, and more that essentially plan your week ahead in recipes and then send you the exact ingredients you'll need to try and make it.
So according to a consulting firm cited in the article, this has grown into a $2.2 billion industry. Those who use it say, look, it's a huge amount of stress out of meal planning for families, especially those of us who are so busy. But it does mean restaurants and grocery stores are missing out on the potential business.
That's because people who use these services likely eat out less often, and if they aren't coming into the grocery store for ingredients that are now arriving at their front door, they can't be tempted by all those impulse buys. So the article says grocery chains like Publix and Kroger-owned stores like QFC and Fred Meyer in our area, they're fighting back by testing out meal kits on their own that you can pick up inside the stores. And while critics cite the excess packaging and cost, it looks like these meal kits are only going to become more and more popular. Travis, do you use them? We use them every week.
Yeah, I know you guys love them. We've thought about them. We've done meal delivery, but I've never done the ingredients to make it myself. Do you like doing that?
For me, it's the planning that is the most stressful. So looking ahead to the week, being like, what should I buy for the groceries to make all these meals? And this takes that completely off the table. So it's a huge stress reliever for us.
I do like the idea, though, that grocery stores are fighting back and doing these so that you can just walk in and pick it up. So then I can look at the ingredients and walk out. That way I don't have to make advanced decisions in the morning.
Exactly. Might be a good alternative.
Oh, another story we were talking about this morning. We recently heard about layoffs in the auto industry. And as a result, well, that means that car makers are seeing fewer and fewer models being sold because robots are now building more and more of the cars. So this is a growing trend, robots taking over jobs. And many people are asking, will robots take my job? So it's a fear that even has folks turning to this website right here. It's a data-backed website that allows you to put in your job and see if your profession, well, could be replaced by robots. So is it a real fear, though? If we think about it, we talk about it, economists say that while robots do more and more jobs, the new jobs will continue to be created and that there will be real problems, something called a skills gap. And it is the skills gap that is best explained by our auto workers example. So let's say that these are the folks currently on the line in Detroit making our cars, and they are replaced by robots now assembling the cars. But the thing is, those robots need to be built, programmed, maintained, and upgraded. So those laid-off auto workers who were on the lines before could go and do those jobs and work with the robots and everything around the tech, only, though, if the employee has the right training. Now, the gap between the old and the new job, that is what a skill gap is. And analysts say that's the biggest challenge of all and the biggest risk here because employees displaced by robots could have all kinds of new options for new jobs and new industries. But if they don't have the skills, then the robots are going to be the ones doing the jobs. And it's that puzzle that schools, governments, and industries will have to help employees solve as we move into this robotic future.
And it's happening, whether we like it or not.
That's exactly right.
Well, a lot of us get paid vacation as part of our benefits, but what about a paid day off just to sort out your finances? Even better, how about working for a company that gives you $1,000 to make sure you have some sort of emergency savings? Well, that's the new reality for some people. Take a look at this story in the New York Times. It's happening at SunTrust Banks. The company's CEO decided about 2.5 years ago to make these benefits part of a financial wellness program. He said he came to the realization that even his own workers, these are people who are in the financial industry, were themselves making bad financial decisions, things like borrowing from their 401k or simply not saving for an emergency. And they're not the only ones. About 30 other companies are starting to offer this particular benefit. Home Depot, Delta Airlines, and the company that makes Little Debbie snack cakes. This comes at a time, though, when more and more employers are concerned about the financial stress of their employees and how it could impact their job performance, so it can affect the bottom line. In fact, according to a study by consulting firm PwC, nearly a third of all employees are distracted by personal finance issues while at work. And about half of them spend 3 hours or more each week handling personal finances while on the job. While some companies say the number one reason they offer is this, it's the right thing to do, other companies say that's the least we could do for the people who work so hard for us. I mean, they don't want you distracted at work anyway.
It does seem like a smart strategy and one more benefit to maybe attract the right employees to the right culture.
That's true, too. Yeah. Definitely.
So we want to continue talking about finances, and we want to talk about kids and finances. So speaking of money, do the kids in your life know the value of the dollar?
Maybe.
New research finds 1 in 5 American teens actually lack basic understanding of saving, spending, and budgeting.
And think about it, it's not necessarily a class in high school that they all go through. So we invited Rodney Van Bell of Laird Norton Wealth Management to join us to help us sort through this issue. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me here. It's great to be here.
Why do you think it is that our kids are lacking in financial literacy?
One thing I want to say first is that Laird Norton Wealth Management has been around for about 50 years now, and we know what this topic is about, and we are here to help clients with that. To get to your question, the top one is that schools don't teach it. It's not on the curriculum. To note that, though, for Washington State, they are adding that to the curriculum for K-1 through 12, and so that's a good thing. The second reason would be that sometimes it's uncomfortable to talk about money with your kids or with anybody, even for adults. And then the third reason is that parents have such busy lives, it's difficult to get this to the top of the list of things to talk about.
Okay,
but
so
it is important.
What do we do then?
What do you do? Yeah. Communication is the key. You need to talk to your children about it. We have many opportunities during the day to be able to talk to the children about money decisions. If you're at the grocery store, making a decision there, bring them into the conversation. If you're making bigger decisions, such as getting a mortgage, buying a car, have them in on the conversation and discuss that with them.
I think it's different than what we all experienced kind of in the olden days, like with my parents' and grandparents' generation, which is you don't talk about finances in front of other people, including in front of other kids, because maybe they're too young to understand. So at what age is it a good time to start having these conversations?
Early is good, no matter what. But it depends on the child too. Some kids, we've noticed, usually around 3 years old, they start getting the concept of money, start asking you for more gifts, more for you to buy more things for them. So that can be the time. A good way to start with training them is to just take some coins, have them figure out what the denominations are, and if they have something they want to buy or purchase pretty soon, have them figure out how many coins it will take.
Interesting.
Next step would be, as they're older, maybe take them to the bank, have them open up a savings account. I can remember myself, my parents taking me to a credit union, opening an account, watching it grow. It can be impactful on the children.
Okay, so I know there are some viewers who are watching saying, yes, but I have adult children and they also need some financial help. As a parent, could I step in with my adult kids and help them a little bit?
As I said, early is okay, and late is okay also. It's never too late to talk to them about it. The conversation is going to be different. It's going to be more about their jobs, about rent, buying a house, things like that. But if the parent is uncomfortable talking to their their children about that, go ahead, and there are a lot of resources out on the internet. If you just Google financial literacy, you'll find a lot of stuff to help out. And there's planners within Seattle who would gladly help your adult children with those issues.
Is it okay to share your own personal mistakes that you might have made in the past?
That is a great thing to do, because as long as you are comfortable sharing that with your children and that it's age appropriate, that's a great way to start a conversation. It's not a lecture. It's more of saying, hey, this is a mistake I made. Maybe you don't make the same mistake I did. It's a great way for them to learn.
Rodney Van Bell with Laird Norton. Thanks for being here, helping us kind of sort this all out.
Thank you for
basically just making time for it and then getting up the gumption to do it.
Exactly.
Right.
Talk about it.
I like it. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Still ahead, how often do you argue with your significant other?
Maybe finances are part of it. Who
Maybe.
knows? And do you know when to go all in versus when to just let it go? Well, we have a local life coach joining us next with some solutions to help all of us, no matter what your theme is when you're fighting. That's next. Welcome back. Let's be honest, no relationship is perfect. Admit it. Nearly all of us will at least on occasion fight with our significant others.
When is it worth the battle, and when is it more worthwhile to just be like, we're good. Just let it on, let it on go. How do you navigate arguments in a constructive way? Life coach Amber Rochelle here to help us sort all of this out. So let's start with just like, why do we fight? I mean, that seems like a basic question, but like, why do we fight?
Well, if you think about it, when you're in a relationship with somebody, you love them, so it's more emotionally charged. And a lot of times when you're making decisions, it affects both people in the partnership, and so there can be differences of opinion. The most common triggers that I see for couples are money, as we were talking about before, misunderstandings, and honestly, like cleanliness, just domestic issues.
Those all sound very familiar.
Yes.
I mean, hypothetically, for other relationships, definitely not for mine. I also wondered about the different ways people communicate and how that comes out in the way we choose to tackle potential arguments or issues that could lead in that way. How should we navigate around if I argue in this way and my significant other argues in a different way?
Sure, yeah. So the two main different ways that people usually come at it is either really emotional or really logical, right? And so it's important to recognize the way that your partner communicates and understand that when they're communicating in that way, it's because that's something that's important to them. And so if you love them, it should be important to you as well. And so it's really about finding a mutual ground and having an understanding of where they're coming from.
Is fighting necessarily bad? I mean, I certainly think that like having a constructive conversation is good, but I have good friends who like swear by yelling and screaming at each other and being able to put it aside, but that's good for their relationship. Can fighting be good?
Yeah, absolutely it can. I mean, conflict in and of itself is not necessarily bad. It's a way to get our feelings out on the table and clear up our differences, right? It's really, you want to come at it in a more healthy manner. You want it to be constructive. And so you really want to focus on like listening to what your partner is saying, letting them finish their statements, right? And understanding their past and their different triggers and having compassion for that. But when you can do those things, arguments can be really constructive.
I want to ask you about what leads up to the argument, because there are all these markers where maybe you notice something and you think, oh, I've got to bring that up, or you start to get into a discussion and it triggers something emotionally in you. How do you know when it's asking for a friend? How do you know? For a close personal friend. How do you know when it's worth bringing up and making an issue out of so that you can get into that discussion or argument versus maybe this is something that I let go? And if you choose to let it go, how does it not bubble back up to the surface like 3 days later?
Right. So there's two kind of gut checks that you can do here. So first of all, when you look at the trigger, when you look at the thing that's making you angry, are you mad? Do you want to fight because you want to be right? Or do you want to fight because you want to be happy? And being happy, look at that is it the mutual happiness of the couple, right? Those are the things that are worth fighting about. If it's something that you know that you're not going to be able to let go, like you were saying, that is going to affect the well-being of your relationship, then that's something that's worth risking conflict for. But if you just want to fight because you want to be right, probably not as important. And then, as far as knowing if you're going to be able to let it go or not, when you think about letting it go, do you feel relief or do you feel resentment? Because if you feel relief, it's probably something that you're going to be able to walk away from. But if you feel resentment, it's probably something you should bring up because otherwise it's going to bubble back in some other way.
Do you have any advice to follow up on that? If I do decide to let something go, and then I can't actually let it go? I mean, do you have any advice for, letting something go after I've decided I'm going to do that?
Yes. Oh.
Well, I mean, I think, we are talking about conflict and arguing, but really what we're talking about is communicating your feelings. And that's the most important thing here because that's what leads to a most healthy relationship. So if you find that there's something that you can't let go, bring it back up, but in a gentle way, put it out on the table of, you can even admit, hey, I'm having a hard time letting this go and I don't want this to affect our relationship. Can we talk this out?
I tend to find that, and you mentioned this when we first had you sit down, that with people we're closest with, we tend to feel a little bit more comfortable being blatantly honest, or if someone were to pass me in the hall and say, "How are you?" I'd be like, "I'm fine, thank you." And how are you? But if I go home and I'm in a bad mood and my husband asks how I am, sometimes it comes out more like, "I don't know what's so good about it." And So I wonder how we draw that boundary between, this is the person who knows us the best. And so because of that, we share the most of ourselves with them. But how do we also taper that with the same respect that we give to people that we know that we're trying to be polite and have a stiff upper lip with?
Well, I think it's good, again, to have a conversation about this where if, for example, if somebody's having a really hard time at work and so they're coming home and they're venting a lot, that person needs to vent. That's important. But the other person also needs some relief from that. And so to be able to have the kind of conversation where, the other person in the partnership can say, "Hey, I need a little bit of a break from this. Is it okay if you reach out to a friend today?" And just know that that's okay. So if you talk about those things up front, right, and sort of work these things out, it can help to smooth that kind of a conversation in a relationship.
Does in your experience, the fighters change over time? Like if you're big, heated, beginning of your marriage, and do you calm? Is it good if there's changing in the way that as your relationship grows, your fighting changes? Or is that a bad sign? Like, oh, we're not talking to each other if we're not fighting?
I think that really depends on the couple. I mean, it's going to change. People grow and evolve and relationships grow and evolve, and as you get to know each other better, and hopefully what we ideally want to see in a partnership is that it will mature over time and that you learn more and more about each other, and therefore you learn more about each other's communication styles. So you will see change, but what you don't want to see is people not talking. That's a sign of a problem.
So keep the communication going, but be a little bit more aware of how we're doing it differently, perhaps, so that we can help each other out.
Yeah, I mean, really the most important thing is compassion and putting yourself in the other person's shoes, and remembering that when we're fighting, what's usually underneath anger is sadness or fear. And so when you can remember that, it can help you to take your guard down a little bit and have compassion for the other person.
I am going to reveal something that I probably shouldn't, as my husband is standing right over there off camera, but we don't actually fight. I can think of the 3 times in our 10-year relationship that we have fought.
Which makes me want to fight with you right now.
When we talk about it, like our parents, his parents don't fight, my parents don't fight. It's not that we don't disagree about things.
Right.
We do disagree about things, but we don't argue about them. And I've always thought we didn't really have an example of how to argue about it. So that's just not the way that it would make me very uncomfortable if we yelled at each other. Is that okay, or is that really weird?
I would say that's okay. I mean, that's just the way that you guys communicate. I mean, hey, you've been together 10 years. That's a good sign, right?
So far, so good, huh?
Right. And we do learn things from our parents. But the point is, if it's working for you, and it obviously is in this case, that's fantastic. Because you did say you do disagree. You do talk about things.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. The way that you talk about it is not as important as that you are talking about it.
This is fascinating.
Yeah,
Life coach Amber Rochelle, thank you so much. We appreciate all your perspective.
Absolutely.
And for more information on Amber's work, you can head to amberrochelle.com. Well, we're actually talking about this on Facebook. Tyler, what are people saying so far?
We're getting a lot of honest responses, so thank you to everyone who chimed in so far. Jessica says we argue about where to go eat, what our plans are, finances, and about the kids. There's still time for you to chime in, so head to facebook.com/Q13Fox. We'd love to hear from you.
The where to go eat, that is actually what 2 of our 3 arguments were about.
And then I'm indecisive, but if he's indecisive, I'm like, just make up your mind.
That's exactly right. Okay, so still ahead though, Google autocomplete, where you're typing into the search engine and it just fills in for you. What if you just put your resume together like that? My experience is dog sitting.
Whatever they say.
Well, somebody actually did that, and I'm not sure it's going to land them a job.
We're going to show that to you next. And take a look at your screen for our weekend trivia. The answer right on the other side of this break.
All right, welcome back. Here's the weekend trivia. Do women do this more than men during their daily commute?
I think Travis and you and I both had an instant answer.
Yeah.
Eat breakfast.
B, eat breakfast.
That was our guess.
So the answer is...
Oh, come on. Drive on empty?
I see my husband sneaking out of the studio right now
Does he do
because
that?
he lives on empty.
No.
And it drives me crazy.
Oh, we found something you can fight
Crazy.
about.
We could definitely fight about that. No, seriously. Putting together a resume could be, really time consuming if you haven't done it in a while.
Stressful. How do you come up with answers?
Right.
So an author from London named Aaron decided to let Google autocomplete his resume for him.
That seems like a great idea, right?
Sure.
Results are hilarious. Oh, but we're not exactly sure he's probably going to land a job anytime soon. Take a look. Here we go. Here are some examples. Instead of my phone number is, he has, my phone won't turn on.
It said, my email, auto-completed to, is sending spam to my contacts. My country is the world.
As for date of birth, I was born to love you. Core competencies, I believe that children are our future.
Personal qualifications, I am trained in guerrilla warfare, and I can prove it mathematically.
Mathematically, it's important. As for professional experience, he typed, I once saw blank an elephant, but I am the chosen one.
Sex, I identify as a wolf.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I know, I read through it and I thought, well, that's interesting. And so I did it thinking, well, we're going to come up with the same responses, forgetting that Google's algorithm has to do with your own searches. So what we're about to reveal is going to say a lot about us. Travis and I each did this, and we posted it to our Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Here's mine. Let's see. My name is Earl.
Of course it is.
My phone number is being used by someone else. I excel at math. Boy, that's not true. My weakness is strong. I worked for Jared for honor, and I learned to love me too.
All right, those are good. I did get a couple of yours, though.
Oh, you
so
did?
We are similar.
Okay,
so
good.
here's mine. My name is Jeff. My phone number is
Jeff.
being spoofed. My email is in Spanish. I was born to love you as well. I graduated in French. No, oui, no.
None.
I worked for Kids Bop. I don't even know what that is, but my experience is in customer service, and thank you for loving me.
Oh, I love that. Very well done.
We would love it if you tried this at home.
Give it a go.
And post it on our Facebook page. So, do you argue with your significant other?
About what? Come on, admit it. Digital producer Tyler is here. Tyler, people are being brave.
I know, people are being really honest, and we thank you so much for that. Not a big surprise here, but most people are saying they fight about money. Kaci, you said that's not the case for you.
That's what. Well, I started by saying that's the only thing we don't fight about. But
Everything
that's not.
else.
That's the big thing we don't fight about, because to your point, the way we were each raised ended up being the same as far as our approach to finances.
Yeah.
You guys?
We just don't fight. Did anybody say that, or are we crazy?
A few people said that. In fact, Rhonda says every couple fights, but after 26 years of marriage, there isn't a whole lot left to argue about. So they've made it. Let's get to one more response. Nate and Cassie say, of course, there isn't a day that goes by that we don't fight, but it's not anything too bad. More like, what are we going to eat? Sometimes money, sometimes who's going to clean the house today? And I know that's a big one in my household.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Chores.
And indecisiveness. We were talking about indecisiveness being a sore subject.
Yeah.
Just make a decision.
Right,
Just
exactly.
do it.
It sounds easy, doesn't it? It's
Sometimes
not.
you're just tired and you don't want to make a decision, but then you're both tired and nobody's going to make a decision.
You need a ref to come in and be like, this is where you shall eat today. No more arguing.
Just a decision maker.
Yes.
Right. I like this.
We need to make an
Can I
app
just
for that.
Pay somebody? Oh, I like
There we
it.
go.
It's even better.
You consult the decision maker when it's time.
Wait, there is such a thing. It's called the 8-ball.
Magic 8 ball.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. We'll bring it back.
Oh,
I think
yes.
Adam Gerke has one.
Awesome.
We'll steal
Tyler,
it for
thank
this.
you very much. Thanks everybody for being here. We're here Friday mornings. We're Saturday and Sunday as well on Joe TV.